it is a pleasure to me to see that after many times I've had super long ones, you now have super long ones.
I have. That's right.
uh,
Exciting.
yeah, so in this section, we get to the fight at Finnsburg, which, man, my first fit 16, was loaded with words I had never seen before.
Mm.
uh, like, just usually I can grok through it just based on what I know of Old English combined with cognates from Old Norse. And this time I was like, what? Half the time.
Mm.
My other fit wasn't as bad, but man, that first one is just like that fight at Finnsburg stuff, just loaded with weird vocabulary. And there's a few places in my sections and your sections where it's like I'm not 100% sure what's going on.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because in my usual little dive to pick out any words that or try and pre-pass any sentences that I thought I might have trouble with here, there are some that I still haven't completely worked out, although I've got a kind of some kind of sense of what they mean, I think.
Well, and typically when I just sit over one forever trying to figure it out, and then I look at the commentary will also say, like, no one has ever agreed about what this passage means. Okay, great.
Thank
It's
God.
like,
Yeah,
it's, I guess that's a relief.
yeah.
It's like, like there's not something super obvious that I'm missing. Um, and then there's just a ton of places where, you have to amend something to make it mean something. So anyway, um, last time we had pretty good success from you screen sharing the reading. I
Yeah.
thought that probably made editing the video, it certainly made editing the last video easier. Um, I think that would probably be a good idea this time too. Um, although since I'm reading off of Claber's 4th edition text, it'll be a little bit different from what you see on this public domain text, but it should give people who don't have their own text something to look at, right? Something to work with while we're doing the reading. So do you want to just do this like last time?
Yeah. Are you able to see the screen share?
I see it.
Okay, cool. And
All right.
it's on the right page, is it?
So yet welcome. Yep.
Fantastic. Because I remember Sword After Richter was my last one because I liked it, liked the way it was worded.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that was that point in late July or early August where I got really sick for a few days, and I was just recording this like
Oh
constantly
no,
blowing my nose. Right? Wasn't that right? I think
but I
I think
remember, yeah.
I think I did like 2 Zoom videos like that, and I think that was one of them. Okay, I'm gonna start reading this. I'll probably be done before the emergency alert thing. All right. Tha jut echwilkum eorla drichten tharathe med beowulve brimlada teach, on thera medu bensja mathum jeseilde, urvelabe, on thona anna hecht golde for juldan, thona the Grendel mana a quelde, swahe hyra ma wolde, nevne him witi god weird forstode, on thas manes mode. Metod elum weald gumana cunis, swahe nu yit dave. Forthan bydd anjut ahwer celest, verthus forthank. Fella shel jebidan, leoves und lades sethe longe her on thusum windagum worlde bruke. There was song on sway samod at jedere for a helftenes hilde wisan. Gomen woedu kreted, jud oft rekken, thona helgamen, rothgares shop, efter middelbensje men aan schulde, finnes evaran. Thahia safer bejet, helftena, nef schuldinga in friswelle felen schulde. Ne huru hildebur, herian thorte, eotena trewe, unsynnum werth beloren leovum aptham lind plegan bernum und brodrum. Ia on your beard ruran gara wunde. That was Yeomoru Ides. Nales holinga hoches dochter, meotod sheft bemern, sithan morin kom. Tho heo under swela jaseon mechte, mordor beolo maga. Der heo meste heeld worlde wine. We ele fornam, fines stenas, nemne feum anum. Dat hene mechte on fem medelstede, we hengeste wichtje vechten. Nee, tha wel lava, we je forthringan, theodnes thene. Ach he him je thingo budan, that he him oder flet eil je rubendan, hele on hechsettel. That he helvre je weiled with eoten a bairn agan mostad, on at feo jiftum folkwaldan sunu, dogra je hultje dena weerdede. Henjes de heap hringum wenede, evnes was swede sensius dreonum, fatan goldus wa he frissene kyn on beerselle buldan wolde. Tha hia je truadan on twa helve festa fruude were. Fin henjeste elne unflitma athum benemde, that heitha weelava weeltena doma arum hilde, that their animan wordum ne workum were ne brache, ne thur inwit seoro avra jamenden, thech hi hira bea guvan banan fulgedan, theoden lese, tha him swa je therogod was. If thona frysna which frechnens brache, das mordor hittes mynd jend wara, thona hit sweardes edge sithan shaden. Ad wasje avned und ije gold a haven of horte. Herre schuldinga bets beodorinka was on bal jeru. At them ade was ethjesune swatfach suche, swin eil yulden, over Ehrenherd, Edaling mani wundum a weirded, summe und welle krungon. Hitha hildebuch et knaves ade, iris ilvris unus mulda befestan, ban fatu bernan, andon bal don eame und extra. Iris gnornode, jeomrode jidum, gudrek astach, wan to woknum, wel fure mest linode fortlawe, havelan multon, ben hier to burston van a blauw dat sprank. Lad biteliches, li ele forswelk. Este jevrost, daar de der guth voornaam bega volkes. Was hier a blad, shaken. Oh man, that took me like 6. That took me like 6 minutes. So some of yours are going to take like 15.
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't know that mine are that much longer. I'll stop sharing. Or maybe I'll keep the screen share open for the run through actually.
That might not be a bad idea. And then probably when you read, switch or make me co-host and I'll screen share so I can follow like when you're reading. That would make some sense. Whew.
That's right.
So in the chat, Gavin suggests that I sound like a mix of Danish and West Country. So
I see.
Exactly.
I feel like
what's
that, sorry?
What's the West Country part of it?
It's like, you know, the stereotypical pirate accent.
Oh yeah, sure.
Sort of like where that comes from.
Arr. Okay, that kind of thing.
But it has like rural elderly person connotations here.
Oh, okay.
Connotations.
Well, should I read this whole thing in pirate? I mean,
Yeah.
then the Lord of the men.
I like the idea that you imagine if you read the entire Old English part like completely with your own personal phonology, just in your own accent, and then you put on like a pirate accent for the English translation.
Did you hear that? Did you hear this?
Is this the
Oh, interesting. I got the English and the Spanish one, so that was why
Wait,
that
what?
was why there were two.
Oh, what is in there's like
This,
words on the alarm thing.
yeah, this national
Oh, I get it.
test. Okay, well, I guess that's past us now. Hopefully, everybody got through it okay.
I think when they did a similar thing over here, I think people sort of got it spread over 3 or 4 minutes. Like people would receive it at different times. So. Although
oh, it's
I suppose it's all right. It's to the later end now anyway.
Gavin asks, is it pronounced Gumana or Humana? Did that G sound become aspirated later? I don't think Guma has anything to do with the origin of human. I think human is um, from Latin, isn't it?
Latin, I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure if that word survives in modern English that I can think of.
Well, I think it starts in bridegroom, right? Because it's the bride man.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But reanalyzed as groom because people didn't remember what goom meant.
Yeah.
I think there may like one other weird, like almost survivor somewhere, but I can't remember what it was. All right, so then the Lord of Men gave treasures. I don't know if I can keep this up. Gesellamatum to each of them who with Beowulf went on a journey on the meat bench. And then treasures are also renamed Irvalov, so like inheritances. And promised Hecht to pay with gold for Yildan Golda, to pay 4 in gold that one, Thona Anna, that one which Grendel earlier killed criminally, a Aquelda Mana. So I'm taking that. Okay. So, or as he wanted more of them, Mahira. So, like he wanted to kill more of them. Unless, or really in English, like kind of had not, modern English, had not wise God, witty God, and that man's courage, Thasmanus mode, so Beowulf's courage, prevented fate. Stoda weird. Which is interesting because weird is used so abstractly and yet also as this like concrete, like a particular fate word. Method, I find, usually means fate as God's will. So that does make sense here in this next line. Fate as God's will, method, rules all wailed Elam of the kin of men, Canis Gumina, as he still does. Or he ruled all men as he still does. Therefore, understanding Anya is happiest everywhere, salest ackwhere, the forethought of the mind, forethought Fairthus. And then this is one of my favorite passages here. The one who dwells long, saith that brooketh longe, here on this world, or in the world, in these strife days, in these war days, in these tough days, shall abide, shall endure, shall ye beat on much fella of hate and love, Lothus and Leovis. I don't know. I like that a lot. It's so It's very gnomic, right? It really sounds like something from Havmal or
these things seem to be just thrown in a way that they're often not in modern English literature, like just massive, very beautifully worded gnomic statements, just kind of put as an addendum to just wherever the author wants to, or like there's the narrative leads into it, but it's not like it's at the end of a fit or whatever.
Yeah, I think I think it's true mostly, although I think there's like a storytelling style that does kind of work these things in.
Mm.
And that it's kind of a like old person storytelling style, right? Like,
Mm.
now that's why, because maybe that's why something like Fall makes me think of my grandfather. It's like, and that's why you shouldn't, um, I don't know, that's
Yeah.
why you shouldn't worry about when you're enduring hate, loth, because you're going to endure some love too, Leo. I don't
Mm.
know.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean. Like an oral kind of storytelling style.
Yeah. And then it's also, I mean, if you read Saxo Grammaticus or some of those medieval church writers, like every paragraph has something like this, although it's never as well put. It's always something like, um, that's why women be vain, like that kind of thing. But, all right. There was song and music together, somehow together. Before the battle leader of Healfdene, which we had to take as Hrothgar because Hrothgar is Healfdene's son. Um, and then there's these past participles, which I suppose are applying to the people playing in the hall. Um, like, are they kind of the implied subject? So the joy wood, like the harp, was touched. Um, the song, the yid, was often recited when Hailgamen, which I'm taking as a name, although it also looks like just Hall Joy, but Hall Joy, Hailgamen, Hrothgar's poet, should speak, should the man on the meat bench after Maelda Bencha. There's one of those prepositions you were talking about in one video, like just how weird they are from a modern English perspective.
Oh, thank you
Should
for
talk.
your nice comment on that video, by the way. Carry on, sorry.
Oh, I enjoyed that video. I think that's some of your prime material is that kind of stuff.
Thank you very much.
He should speak about the heir Everon, so like son of Finn. All right, and so now we get into this fight at Finnsburg, which has lots of names that have nothing to do with the Beowulf narrative, and which sometimes seem confusingly arranged with regard to one another. So we'll deal with that as they come. The danger befell them then, Safar B'Yet Hiathal, the man of the half Danes, Hnaf of the Schildings, should fall in Frisia and Fris well. Indeed, Huru Hildeburh did not need to praise Thorf de Herion the truthfulness, the faithfulness of the Eotins. Now, this could technically be, and this has generated a lot of ink spilled over the years, the genitive plural of like Jotun, right? So like monster, giant, anti-god. But probably because it would look about the same in Old English. It's the Jutes, the people from
Oh, I see.
Jutland, because of course Jutland is pretty close to Frisia, so it seems like Jutes are fighting on one side or the other. The names come so fast and furious that like I can't. I need a map to figure out who's a Jute and who's a Dane and who's a Frisian here. But Hildeburg didn't need to praise. She's definitely not a Jute. She's not going to praise the faithfulness of the Jutes. She became, through no fault, unsinem, so through no sin, she became where lost, deprived Baloran of her loved ones, Leovum, at this shield play at the battle. Her beloved children and brothers, Baranum and Brothen. They fell, Hiahuron, with a wound from a spear, wounda Gara, in fate on Ybird. That was a sad woman. That was Yomaru Ides, which is pretty litotic.
Oh, sad woman.
or said lady. Ides, I guess, is kind of a noble context. A word that occurs in the second Merseburg charm in Old High German.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, some people think that it refers to Valkyries or something. It's about ladies who bind or unbind men in battle, something like that. I think it's kind of common in Old Saxon too, if you read the Halion. Not at all like purposelessly. Holinga did the daughter of Hoch or Hoka or something mourn fate, Shaft, after morning came, when she under the sky could see Seon, the murder evil or the Belu of her kinsman Maga, where she earlier held the most joy in the world. And I'm taking the where as actually as being like their bodies, like she had the most joy in the world in them. Now she's mourning them. Battle took all of them, the Thanes of Finn, except for a few alone. I'm going to fail him on them. That he, which I guess is Finn, could not at that meeting place on Time Medelstede fight a battle at all. Vechten Wicht against Hengist, who, of course, what's the other place that comes up is Bede's story about Hengist and Horsa, right, being the founders of Anglo-Saxon Britain. Isn't that right? Anglo-Saxon
Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah, I think Hengist can also occasionally just be a word for, well, I think they're both words for horse, but obviously, yeah, in this case, the myth makes more sense.
Whether it's the same Hengist or not, who knows? Nor, and I guess the Mechta is continued here, nor could Mechta expel for Threngen the woe survivors by battle. So Finn can't fight them anymore. He can't expel them. The servant of the Lord, Thanos, Thana, but they offered him or them, maybe being all the surviving people of Finn's terms, Ythingo, that they emptied all other halls for them, him, a hall and a high seat that they hold half, that they must own, most on Agan, that they could own power, you wailed over half, probably the hall, with the Judish people, the Ailton of Baron. So the way that most translators have seen this is that there's something missing here where there's this big defeat and the Frisians and the Danes and the Jutes, and it's I can't remember who it's arrayed against who. These warring people. There's this huge defeat, but then they agree to share half of this one hall over the winter or something, or over this winter storm, or something like that. Like they just like the enemies can't go home, but they don't just get slaughtered by the people who defeated them. They like, okay, you can share half of our hall. And at the treasure giving, Folkwald's son, which is Finn, honored the Danes each day, Jochulcha Dogra, Hengist's group, Heap, expected rings, even as many treasures, Evnus will be the Sinchestranum, ornamented with gold, that's on goldness, as he would cheer to build on the Frisian kin, the Frisian people facing the kin in the beer hall. So they're all staying in one hall, and enemies and friends alike get treasures. Something like this. But that's supplying a lot of context because the story does not throw this at you in detail.
No.
Then they pledged in two halves, right? The two peoples, strong, a firm, fast a peace pledge for you, the Wara, and that's that pledge word Wara, which comes up a few lines later, which is in Warlock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Warlock is like the pledge locked one, like he's locked into a pledge, like
okay,
probably to a devil or something, right?
that is interesting.
Finn swore oaths benem de Othum to Hengist. I took Elna as a dative singular to Ellen courage, so like with courage, because it is courageous, I guess, to pledge to your enemy, this sort of thing. And then Udenflitme is a super disputed thing, but probably something like indisputably.
Yeah, I get one of those as well, I think.
Yeah, it's a hotbox that's not well explainable. That he would hold Hilda with honors Arum. Those war survivors, Weolava, with his counselor's judgment, Weotanadoma. That there any man would not break the pledge, Nebraka Wara, that pledge word again, although it looks like the subjunctive to be, would not break the pledge in words nor works, nor would be false to Yamandin, nor would ever be false to Aver Yamandin, the pledge, through like cunning, and like wit, cunning, and wit severu. Though they followed the deaths, Folgadon, Banan, of their ring giver, their lord, Hirabea Givon, lordless, Theoden Lessa, when it was needed, necessitated so for them. So I guess like even though they've lost their lord, like they're not gonna kill anybody. They've sworn a peace pledge.
Yeah.
If I think I don't know if Wara here is on 1105 is the pledge or to be would be, but maybe it's if there would be a reminder, bold speech for each of the Frisians of the murder hate, more their hate is, then a sword's edge would settle Shada afterwards it. So if there's some reminder of the murder hate, the sword's edge is going to settle it anyway. Now that's an emendation. If you look on the screen on 1106, I'm following the 4th edition Klaver emendation of Shoulda to Shada, which is would settle.
Oh, I was looking for it. I was going to say, okay.
Yeah, I think that does make good sense because otherwise, Shoulda what, right?
Yeah,
It should be what. There's all kinds of, as Gavin says in the comments, it's a convoluted sentence even for Beowulf. Yeah, it's the whole fight at Finnsburg episode. You got to feel like this is repurposed from some other poem, or at a minimum, the poet is sort of expecting us to fill in some context, or some parts of this are just lost. And then there's, I think, another emendation because the line right after that, there's Ad, long A, on the screen there. Emended in 4th edition Klaver to Ad, long A D, which is a higher, Pyre, right? because we're talking about a funeral now. So, and I like the emendation, but there's still a tough word there, EJ, which has never been satisfactorily explained. I mean, the thing that it looks the most like is edge, right? Blade or something like that, ECGE, which doesn't make sense in this context. I looked at like 18 different proposed emendations for this in the commentary, and the only one that I think comes close to working in context is that this is some woman's name.
Right.
But even that doesn't work very well. So I'm gonna sort of look over it or overlook it. So a pyre was made, Wasia Avnid, and gold from a hoard of Horde heaped up heaven. It could be Idja's gold if Idja's a woman's name, or gold from Idja, something like that. But even that doesn't make particular sense. The best of the war shieldings, so the best of the Danes of their warriors, Beodorinka, was ready on the pyre, Yeru on Bal. At that Ada, okay, so there on the screen it does have that pyre word, ADE. At that pyre, it was easily seen, Aethusina, blood ornamented shirt, sweat ornamented, but it means blood in a poetic context. All golden swine, the boars they have on their helmets. The iron hard boar, many a noble man, Mani Atheling, injured with wounds, where did wound him? Some fell, Krungon, in battle. And I like that that's, of course, modern English cringe.
I was going to say you pointed that out last time. I like that. Yeah. Ever since you pointed that out, I've been noticing it. The crunch. Yeah. He crunging.
The fight at Finnsburg was super cringe, man. Hildeberg then ordered at Hnaf's funeral pyre her self-son, her own son, to commit to the heat, Befast on Suela, to throw onto the pyre, to burn the bone vessel, his body, Baron on Bon Fatu, and to put him on the pyre Don on Bal. On Aexla, on the shoulder, and then 4th edition Kleber emends Arama on 1117 to Aama uncle.
Okay.
Which I think makes decent sense. So he's being placed on, like, it's kind of weird, like at the shoulder or something. The shoulder of his uncle. Morgan asked about Axel. Yeah, it's related to Axel, but it's just basically shoulder, Old English. So maybe like at the shoulder, at the side of his uncle.
You can also sort of imagine how if the scribe was being a bit lazy or something, or they came back, or they, something like that, they might have just written that because it's, say they'd gone away and come back to it and they'd forgotten what the context was, because I think actual arm on shoulder is something that's written elsewhere in Beowulf, or at least it seems like.
Oh, sure.
It could have just been
a
bit of scribal not paying attention kind of thing.
Yeah, and you never know how much the scribe cares.
Yeah, it's true.
A lady, the lady, this is certainly Hildeberg, she mourned Gnornade, she mourned again Yomrda with songs, War Reek, Guth Rek, which is another emendation for Guth Rank. So the reek, the smoke, in 1118, it rose up, Astach, it wound its way to the heavens to welcome him. The greatest of slaughter fires, funeral fires, roared before the mound, Lenode for flower. Heads melted, one of the most grisly, weirdest couple words in this whole thing. Heads melted, wound openings burst when blood sprang out, the wound of the body, Lath pizza leeches. The fire swallowed all for Swalek Ayla, the greediest of spirits, of those of those of both peoples, Thara Bega Folkus, which war took, their renown, Hira Blad, was departed. Cognitive shaken, but there's
Shaken.
a sense of like gone, departed, yeah, left them.
Oh, nice. As
Criticisms, comments.
oh yeah. Hang on. Still working out how to get the chat up. There it is. Okay.
And if you make me co-host, I'll share the reading for your while you're doing it.
Hang on. Would make host do that, or would that just make you the host? Or would that
You can make me you can make me co-host.
I can't find an option.
Well, yeah, if you make him a host, he's the co-host because it doesn't negate your hosting.
Oh, okay.
As long as you're here.
I suppose.
believe I've fiddled with the settings in Zoom a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much. I suppose that makes sense. But either way, even if you are sole host, you would be. Wait, have I just made you? Hang on.
I don't know. It doesn't matter that much, right? But whether I'm host or co-host,
Are you host now, Jackson?
Yes, it looks like I am.
Cool.
Let's see. If I go over to you, I also see make host. So is it still recording locally on your computer?
It appears to be. Yeah, it says recording. I assume that's local. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do, and anybody who wants to look at the screen for Simon's part, just pin me, and I will share the text from Harrison and Sharp, which you are reading Harrison and Sharp, right? So it shouldn't be as different as mine. Okay, so can you all see my Firefox?
That's good. That looks good to me.
Okay. All right, well, have fun.
Okay, thank you. Right. Jewiton him tha weend. Wekan Nelsian, Freundum befallen, Friesland Jeseon, Hamas und Hauburg, Hengest tha jut. While fine winter, unoder mit finne, alles und flitne, Aurgimunde, Thauchthe he ne maute und meredrivan, Ringet stevnan, home storme well. One with winde, winter ude belaug, Isjebinde, og that other kom, jaar in jaardas, swa nu jut death. Thathes syngalis, sele bewitiath, Wuldor tortan weder, Thawas winter shocken, fire for foldan barn, fundo de urecha, Oreka. Gist of jaardum. He to jurn ratche. Swidor thochte. Thomneto salade. If he tornje mot. Sorte on michte. That he eltena barn inne je munde. Så henne for wurnde. World radenne. Thonne him hunlaving. Hilde Leurnan. Billa Celest on Baron Lyde. Thus waarom mit Eltenum ejekude. Swilche verfrekan. Fin eft bejaat swerbalu sliden. At his selves han. Sidan grimne gripe. Goodlaugh and Oslaugh. After saside sorge mandon. At witon Waunadal, ne maute wavre mod for habban in redre. Tha was hal roden, found a ferum, swilche fin slaien, kinning on cordre, an seu quen numen. Shelten Schuldinga to Shupum Feridon, Al in je stald, Kuninges, Swilje hiu at finnes ham findan mauton. Sila sauro Gimma rather, hiu on salade, drichtliche weef, to denum Feridon, Ladon to Leodum. Leoth was a sungen, Gleomannes jyd, Gamen eft a star, Berto de benchsway, Burelas saldon, Ween of wonderfatum. Tha quam waltheo forth, gan under yildnum baure, thar tha godan tweien, saton suchter je faderan. Tha jut was here sib at gadere, or at yadere, I suppose. I filch odrum triwe. Swilche thar unfert thylle, at fotum sat fraun schuldinga. Je filch hiura his ferthe treude, that he hafte mod Mitchell, thauchthe he his mavum nare. Ar fast at edja je lacum, sprach tha ides schuldinga, on fissum fole freudrichten min, sinches brita, thu on salum wes, goldwin egumena, anto jaudum sprech, or sprech, mildum wordum, swashalman dawn, bear with jaudos glad, jovena jemundi, noun on felran, thu nu fridu havast. Man seide, that thu the for sunu wolde, hererinch habban, heurot is je falsod, bauchselle belta, broek senden thu mote, manira meda, and thinum magum laaf, folk and riche, sonne thu forth schille, method shaft seum. Ich mine kan, gladne Rodulf, that he tha jeude wille, arum haldan, juf thu thonne he, wine schildinga, world of latest. When each that he mit gode julan wille, unkran alveran, if he that aljemon, wat wit to willan, anto worthmundum, umbor wesendum arne je fremedom. Partha bi benche, thar hyre byle waron, Redrich and Hrodmund, and Halida Baurn, Youth at Gadere, thar se goda sat, Beowulf Yauta, Betham je brodrum Twan. There we are. I don't feel like that was that much longer than yours.
I think your other one is pretty long.
Yeah, the other one's longer than this, I think. Yeah, that's true. Right. So, yeah, we've done him. So, departed the fighters for we end, then departed them. Yeah, we've done him to seek their lodgings, deprived of friends, to see Friesland. And I think there's throughout, maybe in your bit as well, there's a few spellings of the Fries morpheme. There's a phrase and there's Fries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hamas and Hauburg, homes and high castle or high fort. Hengist then yet, death-stained winter. So this is, I wasn't 100% sure about this because there's no dative, so it's not it doesn't seem to be in the death-stained winter.
I think
But-
it's just an accusative of duration of time, like for the death-stained winter.
Okay.
Oh, and there's that unklipme. Yeah, you're right. That weird word that comes up again.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of them is Finne, live with Finn. So yeah, I wasn't sure what to do with it. I put in bad company ? Because that seemed to be a compromise between what Bosworth Toller says, which I can't remember exactly what it was, and what would make sense in context.
Yeah,
You put like
the-
uncompromising, didn't you? Was that what you said?
yeah, the apparatus in Flavor Fourth Edition is like without dispute.
Oh, okay.
Like entirely without dispute, maybe like in the sense like they're not fighting, but I mean it's obviously
Yeah.
still like unhappy.
Okay. I suppose that makes sense without dispute. And then that lines up with how it's used in the previous fit if it's like undisputed.
Mhm.
A land so he remembered land, he remembered a land, like maybe his homeland. Or maybe just land in general. Although he was not able to drive Drivon, the ring-proud ship, presumably, on the sea. The sea welled in a storm, worked against wind or fought against wind. Winter enclosed the waves, or it locked the waves. Ice bindings until another year came to the yards. And that's another example of slightly weird word order to fit the alliterative pattern, maybe, until another came year and yards, until another winter came and the yards came to the yards. As it still does now, those that continually observe the whole wonder bright weather. So when it says those that continuously observe the whole, I don't know if it means like the people that continually observe the whole, or maybe just the seasons that continually observe the whole, or something like that.
Yeah, or is Sayla happy? Is it?
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Like, I'm not sure, but like I don't know if that makes it better.
Observe,
just
like those that continually observe, like happily.
maybe, yeah.
Maybe that does make it better, because it's like maybe the implication is like as, or I don't know.
As continually happily they observe
Mm.
something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Like people continue to enjoy this nice weather even today, kind of thing.
Yeah, or as people continually happily observe, winter is followed by spring.
Oh,
right? Like,
okay.
Because actually, I mean, this isn't the first time just in today's reading that we've seen this as it now does, right? The Swan New Yit Day, because that was in mine too, about how God still rules fate.
That's true.
I guess it's just kind of like something that we still do, is we still see that winter is followed by spring. I don't know.
Yeah. Like a commonality between then and now.
Mhm.
Then winter was shocking, which is that word again, like shaken off. Beautiful earth's lap. A wretch, a guest of yards, yist of yardum, intended to go. he sooner thought of vengeance for injury, Jörn Rache, like injury vengeance. He sooner thought of that than of the sea path. If he might carry out a violent meeting, Torniemort, that he of the Etin's sons remembered inwardly. So I'm reading this as one of the Etins, like one among the Etin's sons, the monsters, is set on getting revenge for the violence that was committed against Grendel, maybe? Because I know it's using male pronouns, but hang on.
No, because I don't think so, because we're still talking about the
Still talking about
fight.
the Finn battle. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I think this is one of the Utes, the Jutes,
Okay.
which I guess it might be Hengist, because he's the particular person who's been talked about here.
That's okay. I've misinterpreted it, Elton, as monster.
I don't think
I
don't think at this entire part that it's ever monster in the fight at Finnsburg part.
Okay,
because
I think you're right.
Hengist is a Jute, right? He's because he's the one who stays. Like, it looks like the other Frisians leave, and maybe he stays as like a hostage.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes, I imagine that will make the whole thing make a lot more sense than what I was reading.
Yeah, because this is still the whole fight at Finnsburg thing until like 1160 or so.
Yeah, I think I misread Hilton as monster there. Okay, so that he of the Jute's sons then remembered inwardly. So he's looking for vengeance. Okay. So he didn't refuse the way of the world. So he didn't like refuse the natural order of things when battle light Unlaving placed the finest blade, the Billa Sealist, on his lap. Its edges were known among Jutes, I suppose. Okay, yeah, that makes a load more sense.
And I think Hunlafing may be the sword. Like,
oh, okay.
When he did that onto, like, when he's putting on Hunlaving, his happiest of weapons.
Yeah, okay. So then that explains why. That makes more sense why Hunlaving is battle light. Okay, so Swilche Fer. So I'm gonna translate this like Swilche construction as Finn, so bold in spirit, like so bold in spirit was he, kind of thing. He obtained or received evil sword hatred at his own home, at his Selvisharm, when Guthlaf and Oslaf declared their sorrow, Sorgemandon, about a grim attack, Sithon, or when about a grim attacks. Okay. So he received evil sword hatred at his own home when Guthlaf and Oslaf declared their sorrow relating to a grim attack after a sea journey.
Yeah, I think Gudlaf and Oslaf must be then Utes who are showing up to avenge Utes or Danes showing up to avenge us on the Frisians. I guess Hengist, I think we've got some serious context missing here. Like, Hengist has gone back home by this point and like told everybody about what happened, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe this is maybe this is just like a heavily abridged version of a story everyone's expected to know.
Definitely feels that way.
And then there's another thing I like. At Witon Waunadal, like blamed a part of woes. Benjamin Slade has like blamed for their share of woes, but I don't know if
That seems
would then have to be dated. But I feel like that seems to capture what it seems like it means.
yeah, like the Frisians part of it, or the Utes part of it.
Yeah.
They're yeah, Clapper's apparatus has like charged someone with something they charged. So yeah, blame, charge.
They couldn't restrain their wavering spirit in their breast. Then the hall was decorated, Thawas Hal Prodden, with enemies' lives. So was Finn slain. King among the troop, and the queen taken. So Queen Lumen.
Yeah.
Shooting shieldings, so like archers maybe. Ferried all the household goods, the Injestald of the Land King, to the ships, necklaces and precious gems. Such as they were able to find at Finn's home. So all of the precious things they were able to find at his home. They ferried a noblewoman at Drichtliche Weef to the Danes on the sea path, led her to the people. A song was sung, Lelthwasar Sungen, a musician's melody, Gleeman's melody. Joy rose again. Bench music shone. Cup bearers gave wine from wonder cups, Wunderfattum. And I think this fat is possibly the same word as modern vat, but I'm not 100% certain.
I think that's one of those weird words that goes through a Kentish sound change, like vixen is from the fox root, and yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that because now this is one thing that's actually now restricted to the West Country, is this word initial fricatives becoming voiced thing, but it used to be a lot more widespread. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I think we're back in the Beowulf story, because we've got Whalethale, right? Hrothgar's
this a source of confusion for me when I was doing this, but now I understand that because the previous bit was all because
I don't think
about the Jutes, or is this about Eltons? But yeah, that was maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're puzzling over these lines, we've been talking about a woman who was taken, who I think might be Hildeborg from earlier, who was from one of the warring people and then married. She was a Ute or a Dane, but married to a Frisian, I think is why she was mourning this so much. But now we're talking about another woman entirely.
Yeah.
Whalethale. So actually the part about the song having been sung and all that might also be part of the Beowulf story too. But it's not clear. Like, we don't have the movie, clouds to kind of fade away as we come out of our flashback or our story being told.
It's difficult to imagine how anybody at the time could have understood exactly where the seam was there.
Yeah. Yeah. How do they keep track of all the names? I mean, like supposedly people in oral cultures are better at this, but still, there's so many names to keep track of.
Plus, I suppose if this is literally just like a writing down for whatever reason of something, yeah, of something that's purely oral, I suppose they'd have intonation on their side to do the equivalent of like the clouds parting. Like they could.
Yeah, I suppose.
Have
And
you-
I don't think that the fit divisions are necessarily medieval. I think the manuscript just goes right over it. So I think, like, maybe if I were making an edition of this, I would have some hard break here and start another fit or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if you've seen. It's a fun, obviously, like nobody knows how exactly how this would have been read, but there's a fun Benjamin Bagby video somewhere. If I don't know if you've seen it, of this American guy kind of doing it in what he imagines to be a kind of medieval style with a lyre. And it's like whenever there's a fit break, there's a little bit of twiddling on the lyre. That's what I'm imagining. Like,
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
again, it's probably like
Yeah.
we don't know how it would have been recited, but yeah.
But I like that idea.
What's that? Sorry.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to have in mind. It's definitely much better to imagine it that way than to imagine it as a piece of written text, I think, because it's clearly supposed to be an oral kind of tradition.
And you have to give a lot of credit to the oral audience because some of the stuff that we have to sit and stare at and try to piece out, they only have one chance at orally. So
Yeah.
it might be going over the heads of some of the audience.
Okay, so then while Theo came forth, walking under a gilded ring, so maybe like wearing a golden neck ring, a gilded neck.
That's probably right.
To where the good two, the Gordon Tweyen, sat, uncle and nephew. Then still was their relationship, their like kinly bond together, each true to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then Unferth comes back. Unferth, the spokesman, also sat there. Swilche sat at the feet of the Lord of the Scyldings. Each of them trusted his spirit that he had a great mind or great spirit, although he was not honourable to his relatives at the blade's commotion. I think that's the.
But he's been accused of that before, right? Didn't Beowulf accuse Unferth of that too?
Yeah, it's like there was one of those like, is this some old story kind of thing that I think we encountered, like, well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but you did this back then, kind of thing.
I'm going to do a fanfic about Unferth and how he killed his kinsman.
Yeah. It must be somewhere. It must be like buried somewhere. Just keep digging through archives till you find it.
Maybe.
Then the lady, the Edith of the Scyldings, spoke. Take this full cup, my lord master, giver of treasure. Thu on Salum Wes, like be you, that you in happiness be, like be you in happiness. May you be in.
It's got to be that, yeah.
Like subjunctive. Gold friend of men, and speak to the Geats with gentle words, with like mild words. Soir Shalman dawn, as one should do. Be gracious with Geats, mindful of Yovinar, maybe like gifts from near and far. Hang on. What have I done with this? That you
Maybe generous with gifts, like remember to like give these gifts.
like,
I
yeah,
don't know.
like repay them kind of thing. I wonder if it's, does it say Thu nu friðu havast in Quaver?
It says, one sec. Nope. 1174 just is Thathu Nu Havast.
Okay, that makes more sense, I feel like. Like,
Yeah.
because then you could have it as you could then
'Cause-
have it as something like, oh, what's that, sorry?
Yeah, because then it's just which you have now. I don't know what the Frithu is doing. It's not in the manuscript.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But yeah, okay, so in that case it could be like be gracious or like be gracious or thankful or whatever with Geats of gifts you now have from near and far. Like be mindful of gifts you now have, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
And this is an annoying example of with seemingly meaning with or to rather than against. So Elrot is cleansed, the bright ring hall.
Oh, there's you
Oh, I
you
missed
missed
it.
3 half lines there. Maimon
Oh,
Sada.
yeah. Mehman. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. So one said to me, or a man said to me, that you want to have a son as a warrior, that you,
I think you want to have the warrior, meaning Beowulf,
oh, as
for
your
your son.
I see, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that you want to have the warrior for your son. Thank you for thank you for carrying me much more than I carry you as usual.
No, it's not, I sit here and get perplexed myself. I just like I having seen this and read this so much, like some of it is context that I can provide just from having been over it
Experience and
too
stuff.
many times.
Yeah. No such thing as too many times.
There might be.
Okay. Helrot is cleansed, the bright ring hall. Brook, like use or enjoy while you can. The many rewards. And leave to your kinsmen, people and kingdom. Maybe leave the rewards to your kinsmen, people and kingdom. When you have to go forth to encounter, like to see your fate after death.
Yeah, and Mog being typically children, I think she's talking about like they have 2 sons, right? So she's feeling threatened by Beowulf potentially taking over as the heir of
I see, yeah, okay.
Hrothgar.
Okay. I didn't get that subtext. Yeah, that is interesting. Here's another fun bit of a word order. Ich mi nekan gladne Hrolf. I my know glad Hrolf, gracious Hrolf. So I know my gracious Hrolf that he wants to hold the young men in honor. And if you, friend of the Scyldings, leave this world earlier than him, I think that he wants to pay our offspring with good. If he remembers all that, Alfat, what, hang on. If he remembers what we two, before while he was a child, committed glories for worldly renown. And I like that.
Yeah.
Like being where is it? Hang on, I've lost it now. Like Umbor Wesendum, I think that came up before, like in child.
Being a child, yeah. Like, so they've been good to him when he was a kid. He'll treat them well. Hrothulf, right? He'll treat their kids. This is his nephew, which, by the way, is Rolf Kraki in the Old Norse tradition, who's a bigger character than Hrothgar, Hroar in the Norse tradition. He'll treat Hrothgar's kids well. Like, she's kind of if this is about her being jealous that Beowulf is going to inherit what their kids should, she's also kind of like going on too long about some other situation where, oh, and by the way, if you die, even though the kids are young, you have a nephew who will care for the kids.
Yeah.
Seems to be kind of the gist. Because the next thing she does is she goes to her kids. I think Hraethric and Hrothmund are her and Hrothgar's kids.
Yeah, I think so.
And they're probably the two good ones who are sitting close to her earlier here, right? The Twa Goda.
Oh, yeah.
The Twa or Twain Goda Twagen.
Yeah.
I think it's probably them. So she's just thinking about her kids, like, oh, crap, this guy's come in and done all this cool stuff, and now Hrothgar's given him everything. Like, is he going to give him the kingdom that, it should be my kids who inherit it? I mean, it's perfectly normal.
It's a
pretty family politics.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because it's like, I feel like there are moments where what Hrothgar's doing, even to me, it's not that it seems manic, but it seems almost manic, like the level of, because Beowulf has done a good thing, an extremely good thing, and not been has been very humble about it and stuff. But then at the same time, it's like,
it's like maybe he just goes, too far with his generosity and kindness towards someone who's done him a good deed.
Yeah.
Gosh, isn't there a joke about this? Some skit or something where someone, fixes some rich guy's car and he has no idea what money really means. Who's like, what's a good reward to give him? It's like, oh, I'll just give him my, my mansion. And his butler's like, no, that's way too much. But it seems like this is kind of like it's not a bad characteristic of Hrothgar's that he's so generous, but his wife has to kind of, rein him in.
Yeah, it's almost like he's almost maybe forgets his responsibilities a little bit.
Yeah.
So Cloud, she then turned by the bench where her sons were, Hraethric and Hrothmund, and Hero's children, the young all together. There sat the good Beowulf of the Geats by the two brothers.
Which is maybe something threatening to her.
Yeah. He's just sat there.
This person has been admitted. Hey, I'm gonna make you host again so that we can go. So you can. Hey, you have it set. One thing I would actually do for the next time that you host one is I would not create a waiting room.
Okay.
Because I didn't see there was someone waiting in the waiting room. I didn't see that while I was screen sharing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like, I think if anyone comes into something like this who's a troublemaker or whatever, like you're not gonna know from their nickname in the waiting room.
Of course,
So
that's true.
I don't think the waiting. I used to have a waiting room, and it just drove me crazy. All the notifications. So and so's in the waiting room. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could turn it off, but that's a good shout. Would you mind if I quickly went and made a coffee in anticipation
No, I
of
think
my next
I
fit?
think it's a good idea for us all to. Yeah, we can break for a few minutes here. All right, we're back.
Right.
Hopefully, I'll equip myself decently.
How's that?
I can see it. All right. Him was fullborn und Freundlatu wordum bewaaned, und wunden gold estum je eeuwid, rede twa, heil und hringas, heel speer mast thare the ich onfold on je vrijen hebben. Nanine ich onderswele selran huurde hord mathum halaga suthan hama atwai. Tothara birchtan buri brosingamen, sila und sinchfad. Sero nidas flech ermon riches, jacheas echnerad. Thona ring hebde hielak jeta, neva swertingas nichts dan sida, sithan he undersene sinch eilgede, while rea werde. Hine weird voornaam sithan he voor lenkcho wean achsode, fethe to prisum. Heitha fratwe wei, erklan stanas over uda fool, riche theoden, he underande je krank, je huerftha en fakta fathen feor kuninges, breost je wadu on sebech somod. Weersan we frekkan while reveden, after guth shere. Jeta leode, rea which haildon. Hail swea on fang, Weich theo mathalode, heo for them where the sprak. Puk this is big as Beowulf leode, huse mid helle, on this is greiles neot, theodius dreona, on die theo tella. Jen fetch mit krafte, on thisum knuchtum wes lara liede. Ich they that lean jaman. Havas tu je ferid that the fair on ne elna vida fair whereas echtiga evna swo sida swa sabe bugid windyeard wales westenden thu Libya adeling eedi ich they antella sinchestrana bear thu suna minum dadum jedeva driam heldende. Her is which eo from je truwe, modus bilde, mandrichtne, hold. Thena sintum je thwara, theod eo jeru, drinkne drichtguman doth swage bide. Eodotha to setla, thar was symble kust, drunkon ween weras, weirdne kuthon, jeo sheft grimme, swahit agangen wer, la manegum. Sithan even quam, on him Hrothgardia wat to hovesim, bitche to resta. Richard werdada, unrim erla, swa hea oft didon. Bench the luberidon, hit on the breaded ware, bedum on bolstrum. Bear schilka sum, fus und feie, fleplaste gebei. Set on him to hefton hilderandas, bort would bertan. There on bencher was over Adelinge utgesene. Heel de stepe helm, ringed burne, frek woede thrimlich. Was there here that he oft waaron anweerwe, ye at ham ye on area, ye water thara evna switcha mala. Switche here mandrichna there je seilda, wasse theo tilu.
I've noticed another example of your Old Norse accent slipping in sometimes, which is
that
it's only happened once this time, but sometimes you say swa like swore.
Oh, sure. Why do long A's as something around? Yeah, I'm sure that's a habit that would be tough for me to get over because it looks like the same word.
But also tough
Um,
for like an Old Norse speaker to get over, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, depending on when that rounding started.
that's
Um,
true, I suppose
but
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, interesting point. I'm sure there are a few words certainly where, yeah, it looks so much like the Old Norse word that I'm just reading it as the Old Norse. That's actually affected me occasionally where um there was something, I can't remember if it was the previous section or this one, where originally I kept tripping over myself because I was reading a word like it was Old Norse. Um,
Or what, as in
but
translated?
it was some false friend.
Oh,
Like I just kept reading it that way, and then it's like, oh yeah, duh, right? I'm reading it in the wrong language, sort of. But they're so close that you can still kind of do that
yeah, yeah.
most of the time.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Okay, so a full cup full was carried to him, was born him, and a friend greeting, Freund Lathu. That Lathu word often occurs in Elder Futhark as a just in isolation, just something that people put on brooches and things. It also occurs in Havamal, like Thjodloth, big greeting, friendly greeting, people's greeting or something. All right. Was offered to him with words. So a cup was brought to him, and a friendly greeting was offered to him with words. And wound gold, presented with graces or loves. This is Old Norse ost, love. Two arm adornments, or I kind of wondered if this is arm red things, which would still make it gold, right? Because we're talking about red gold.
Oh, that's true. The color term.
Yeah,
Color term.
I'm always
only one Jackson Crawford would.
Yeah, my color antennae are always up, right? A mail shirt and rings, the greatest of neck rings, which I have heard tell of have a Ephraim on the earth on Fallen. I heard Ichhirda of none Nanninga under the sky under Suela better Selron of I've heard of no better hoard treasures hoard by them of men Halva since Sivan Hama carried at way to the bright fortress the Brisingamen, the necklace of the Brosing. So of course this has always got the attention of people interested in Norse myth because the goddess Freya has a necklace called the Brisingamen, which this is a story about in Sorlathotter, and it's also worn by her in Thrymskvida, where it's loaned to Thor when he's dressing up as a bride. There's some interesting stuff here. It's her necklace in Norse myth. It is notable that Hama, I don't think he occurs in Old Norse outside of Thithric saga, which is based on German sources, so it doesn't really count. But in Old Norse, that Ham element, the cognate would be Haim, and Snorri hints at a story where Heimdallr, it's the Haim anyway, fights Loki over the Brisingamen somehow. So there's something interesting going on here between either some kind of human story that's been lifted up or some god divine story that's been euhemerized. But something interesting is going on with this necklace. It was a jewel and a costly thing, Sila on Sinchvat. He fled cunning evils, Seoranithas of he fled the cunning evils of Jormunrekkr, Ermenrich, Gothic king who comes up in tons of old legendary material. He chose Great Council, Ichaeus Hnet Rad. Higelak of the Geats had that ring, which seems like kind of a what? Isn't that Beowulf's dad?
Mm.
Like, okay, so I don't know why he has it, but he had the ring, the nephew of Swerting. Is this like on the nearest side, like the closest nephew to him or something? Um, or he went next or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, the only other thing I could think of that Seath might mean could be like wide or broad or something, but I
Yeah,
don't know if that would make sense.
or the companion or the trip on the next trip could be a possibility.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like it's one of those
on
things
the
where there's a load of things that you could kind of shove in, but none of them seem perfect, kind of thing.
yeah, I think maybe on the next trip kind of works. After he protected the treasure, Aelgada Sinch under a banner under Segne, he dealt with battle what battle spoil where it a well, or no, he guarded the battle spoil where it a well Rev. Fate Weird took him for Nam Hina after he sought woe, maybe sought battle, also to weigh on for pride or Lancho, a feud, probably like with the Frisians, back to Frisian. He carried the ornaments, the fratway, the precious stones, Ericlin Stannis, over the cup of waves, the ocean, the powerful lord. He fell under the shield, cringed under the Ronda shield.
I never noticed because I wasn't focusing too much on this one when I was like sifting through. I never noticed how nice like the cup of waves. I feel like that's one of the nicer ocean descriptions.
Yeah, I kind of like it. You could even see in it a mythological reference if the story of Thor trying to drink the ocean when he thinks he's drinking the meat horn at Utgard the Loki's place, when he thinks that's just a cup of meat, but it's actually the ocean that he's drinking.
That's one of my favorite Old Norse stories that I'm aware of. Is the
it's such a ludicrous story. He disappeared then, fell then in the life of the king, Ferth Kuningas, disappeared then in the embrace of the Franks, like the land of the Franks. His chest clothes, his mail shirt, and the ring together with it. Worse warriors, Weirson Weekreken, robbed the body, raved and wow, after the slaughter, after Gooshera. They held the corpse place. The Geatish people held the corpse place, I guess won the battle. All right, and now I think this has been another one of those, we're up in the clouds, it's a flashback or a story being told. Now we're back to Beowulf timeline. The hall received sound, maybe music, hail, swale, and fang. Wealtheus said she spoke before the sweet thing, the sweet drink she's offering Beowulf, presumably. And here we see how often verbs of use or enjoyment take a genitive object in Old Germanic languages. So, Bruk, this is Begas, like enjoy, use this ring, dear Beowulf, youngin, Hissa with health, Midhala, and enjoy this mail shirt, nail this Rylis, the great treasures, the Odestrana, and receive well, show yourself with strength, King, that with crafta, and be pleasant, Letha, with teachings, Lara, to these boys, this knichten. I remember Ichiaman, or remind maybe you, Thay, of this gift, Thas land. I think she's just being really insistent that she's like, look at this cool stuff I'm giving you, be good to my kids.
Yeah.
But Beowulf is, Beowulf, to his credit, and it's something that comes up again and again and again, shows no interest in trying to usurp the kingdom. He's always talking about going home. or he doesn't, you know, he's got such a self-contained character.
Mm.
You have achieved, Jefarid, that far and near, fair and nea, men, whereas think about Ektigath, you totally, they Aelna, forever, Weed Affair. People think about you all over the place. Even as wide as the sea surrounds, so as much land as the sea surrounds, the wind yard, the walls. So the wind yard could be the earth or maybe the sea. Like we're seeing the walls of the sea surround.
Is that not just
Oh, you've got Windia on there.
oh, I see, okay.
Okay, that's 1224.
Yeah, it seems like Clavis
I mean,
stays closer to the manuscript anyway.
yeah, I think wind yard, so like wind yard, right? Wind place is the manuscript reading. While you live, Thenden through Livia. Interesting subjunctive on live, so she's not. So there's something doubtful about this. While you live, be, my lord, Adeling, wealthy. And then there's no verb here that I can see. You, on, well, treasures. Ich they on tele sanctus strata.
Yeah.
Could be, we should understand some verb, you know, give. I give you
some implied.
treasures well. Be you, Beowulf, to my son. I think it's singular though. Proper in deeds, Yadeva Datum, holding joy. So be cheerful with them, Dram Heldenville. Here, every man at which Errol is true to the others, Treo Yatruga Othram, mild of spirit, gentle in spirit of the modus, a loyal man troop, old Mondrishna. The Thanes are harmonious, Ithwara. The people is all ready, Yeru. The does as I bid. So it's interesting that drunk lord, Drunkna Dritguman is accusative. He does as I bid. Or is she telling him do as I bid? Or them do as I bid? Is that an imperative? Imperative plural? I don't think it is. Maybe it is. Do as I ask, do as I bid. I don't know. Do you take do swat ich bidda as like its own clause? Oh, you know what?
It's got an exclamation mark here, which is probably not in the almost certainly not in the manuscript.
No, certainly not.
That's good, but
I think probably it's like hold, you know, loyal to is going with Mondrikna, the man lord, and the drunk lord, Drunkna Drikuman, and then do swatch bidda is an imperative. Do as I ask.
Yeah. This is,
or they do as I ask. Like they all do as I ask. That could also possibly be it.
It could be either. I'm wondering. I'm trying to work out why because obviously Harrison and Sharp have put the exclamation mark in because it couldn't have. So I'm wondering how because it looks like they've interpreted it as an imperative, but then I suppose that's their interpretation of it. But I
I think it works okay.
It works either way.
So she went then to her seat. That was the choicest of feasts. Just Simbla. Men drank wine. They did not know fate, the Gren fate, as it came to pass whereth a Gungan for many men, Monogam Erla, after evening came, and Hrothgar departed him, took himself to his residence, to Sinamhova, the powerful one, to rest. The building guarded Richard Werda, a large number of men under Erla, as they often did. So they're in there as they often are, I suppose. The benches were cleared, bench that Baradon. We're jumping from plural to singular a couple times in these lines. I guess the benches were overspread, bratted with beds and pillows. So they're turning their eating benches into their cots. Some or one of the beer servants, ready and happy, bent to floor rest. They set their war shields, Hildorandus, to their heads, the Peofdon, the bright flat woods, Borgwudu. There on the bench was easily seen Uthusena over the noble, over Athelinga, steep helmets, with the stuff, a helm, the ringed mail shirt, the strong wood, the spears, very much Borgwudu. It was their custom, Hiratheo, that they often were ready for battle on Weigierwa, whether at home or on a raid. So there you have ye, which often is ye, y'all in Old English, but also has this whether or, whether at home or on a raid. Whether each of them, even so many times, such as they needed for their manlord. It was a faithful people. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong with it. Switch here and Mondrift up there if you sailed them. But the context is clear. They're going to bed, but they still have their weapons ready, their helmets ready, their armor ready, because they're a faithful people and they're always ready for battle, whether they're at home or abroad. Such needed to give to their manlord, their lord.
Yeah.
By the way, the chapter titles in this Harrison Sharp edition online are pretty over the top. I particularly like the Glee Man ends his song or something. The Glee Man. Grendel's mother attacks the ring day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but if you've ever read obviously I can only read the English translation, but I think they're just as ridiculous in French, but the old books like Les Miserables is one of the funniest, where the chapter titles are just like Marius approaches a wench in the street and asks her where such and such is, and she responds that she just like a big paragraph describing what happened, or otherwise.
Yeah, or like those 18th, 19th century subtitles, like in which so and so is defeated, or whatever. Sometimes it's kind of a spoiler. Okay.
If I give you back the hostdom.
All right.
I'll just see if there's anything been written.
I'm the host. I'm the captain now.
You can now delete the recording from my computer.
Oh wow. It's too much power. Also, it's been too much work, too much time. No way.
Some interesting discussion in the chat.
All right, I'm gonna start screen sharing. I guess yours seemed really long to me, and maybe they're not as super long as they seemed when I was looking at them earlier.
Yeah, I felt mine was my second. Definitely felt like it was longer than the first, but it doesn't seem to.
It felt long when I went over it, when I was just reading over it just to be ready for discussing it. Like
Yeah.
for some reason, it felt like I sat with it for a long time.
To be fair, there are a few bits that I got a bit stuck on, so that might be. But yeah, right.
Fair enough.
Sion tha to slape. Sum sare on jald avin raste. Så him full oft je lamp. Siddan goldselle. Grendel warude. Unricht avende. Och that ende bekom. Svult after sunnum. That I syne warth. Weed kuth werum. That wretchend tha jut. Livde after lathum. Lange thrage after guth chaure. Grendles modor. Ides aglak wif. Urmde jemunde. Sethe water eison wunien shoulder. Chaldes dramas sidon. Now I have Cain warth. To
I
edge
think it's about right.
on gone breder. Faderan maie. Hetha fach je wat. Mordre je markod. Mandraum fleon. Westen warude. Sonnen walk fella. Je orschaft gasta. Was thara Grendel sum. Heurowarch hetelich. Se at heurote fund. Ratchen ne wer. Wies bidon. Tharhim aglaka at grape warth. Quadre he munde maien strenge. Jim faste jive. The him God salve. And him to onwaldan are je lufte. Provre and fultum. Thu he thonne found overquon. Je naide helle gast. So he haun je wat. Draume bedalid. Douth which seon. Man kines found. And his modor tha jut jivre and galg mod. Je gan wolde. Sorg fulne seeth. Sunna douth urekan. Kom tha to heurote. Thar ringdene. Jon that sauld suavun. Tha thar sona warth. Edhwyrft eurum. Siddan inne falch. Grendles modor. Was se grude lassa. Evne swa michle. Swa bith maide kraft. Swa bith maide kraft. We grude weaves. Bewapned men. Thonne heurubunden. Homerek jethuren. Swerd swate fach. Sween over helme. Edjum dychti. Andward shireth. Tha was on halle. Hard edge togen. Swerd over setlum. Seed rand money. Haven handa fast. Helm ne jemunde. Burnan side. The hinne se brova an jout. He was on ofste. Wilde ut thanon feure beurgan. Tha he on funden was. Rode he adelinga. An ne havde. Faste befangen. Tha he to fenne gang. Se was prothgare. Halida levost. On you see this hard. Besam 12 Riche an wiga. Thonethe heo on raste abraut. Blad fastne beorn. Nas Beowulf thar. Aquas oder in alje telchod. After marum jive. Marum jate. Raum warth on heurote. Hel under helvre je nam, kode fulme, chauruas je niwod, je worden in wicum. Newas that je ritsle til, that hiu on bar halva, bidjan sjoldan. Freunda feurum. Tha was frod kunning, har hilderinch, on freon mode, Syddan he Aldorf thein, Ulivienne, sonne deureston davne wisse, Rode was to bure, Beowulf fetod. Sior, no, sorry, Sigor audi sedge. Samod ardaie, eude eurlasum, adele cempa, self mid yesidum, versus snotra bad, quadre him alwalda, avre wille, after wow spelle, wurpre je fremman, gang tha after flore, fyrd wirde man, mit his hands shale, alwuru dynede, that he thon a wison, wordum naide, fraun inguina, frain, if him ware after neudladu nicht jetase. Right.
All right.
That is all, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
So nobody read the title of the Harrison and Sharp fit because it's a spoiler. They then descended to sleep. One, I always read like Psalm as like one in particular, like a particular, people say like a particular man. One in particular sorely paid for evening rest, as had very often happened to them back when Grendel had inhabited the Gold Hall. Unrecht Abende, like performed wrong, until the end came, death after sins, so his death after the sins he committed. It became obvious, Yasune, became widely known among men, I'm going to say among for the preposition there, that an avenger then still lived after Grendel's evils. Lange thrare, a long while after the war sorrow. Grendles Mordor, oh my god, Grendel's mother. I've translated Idis Arglakweave as Lady Monster Woman.
Yeah, like it's the double emphasis on like it's all nouns, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
right. And two of them are woman, so like I almost kind of wonder if the right intonation for reading this is like Grendles Motor, Ides, Arglakweave, like kind of pause, kind of put a comma after Ides, and then Arglakweave, like the mom, the lady, the monster, like it's kind of emphasizing the femaleness, right?
Which is interesting because one of the things about this passage is that they don't always use what gender the pronouns are, kind of switches around a bit. Sometimes masculine pronouns are used.
Oh yeah, and it's weird with Old English anyway, because weave,
that's true.
The word that becomes wife is neuter, right? I mean, and that's the typical word for woman. I think Edis might be neuter too.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of just weird gender assignments of words like this in Old English.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
Oh no, Edis is feminine. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that is just a syntactic thing then, rather than any deliberate implication of anything else. But yeah, because I was thinking it might be some way of like casting her in a kind of, this is because with a like an object that wasn't a human, it would be much more like things just take whatever their grammatical gender is.
Yeah,
I want
but I think I see what you're talking about, like looking ahead at 1260 where you get say masculine who should dwell, right? So is that going back to reckoned, right? Are we going way back there to get our gender for say? Because otherwise you'd expect it to be Sayo if we're so emphasizing that this is a female.
yeah.
Huh.
Maybe they're being played against each other. Maybe it's like making semantically clear that it's a woman, and then kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think probably the best explanation for it is that Seithe in 1260 masculine is going back to
Back to the, yeah, maybe. Okay.
back to reckoned. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that could easily be true. Right. So Grendel's mother, woman, lady, monster, woman, remembered misery. She had to inhabit the Water Sun, maybe like the terrifying water, the water terror, the water's horror, whatever. Cold currents, childish dramas. So I noticed one of it might have been the Benjamin Slade version. I noticed, where am I? One of the versions doesn't have Cain here. It replaces it with something like Cump. But does the manuscript have Cain? Do you know?
The manuscript reads
After childish.
okay, weirdly, the manuscript reads comp, C-A-M-P. Which is weird.
Yeah, because
it's gotta be Cain because he kills his brother.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense semantically. Or contextually could be Cain, right? So if we assume it's Cain, since Sidon Cain Warth to Edgebanon, since Cain had become the only brother. Hang on. So Banon is dative. So Cain became only brother to a sword murderer.
No, this is actually an idiom. Werðan to, or in Old Norse, verða at with a dative is just become. So he becomes the edge killer to his only brother. He becomes the stabber. This is in Old Norse. You get this, I think, a little bit more than in Old English, because like there's a distinction made where you know how Loki tricks Hother into killing Balder.
Yeah.
So Hother is the hand bani. He's the hand killer. He's the one whose hand does the killing.
Right.
But Loki is the Roth bani. He's the council killer. He's the one whose council killed him.
Oh, I see.
So this kind of compound is pretty familiar from Old Norse. I don't think I see it as much in Old English where it's edge killer. He's the killer with an edge, killer with a blade.
Okay. Thank you very much. That makes sense. Okay. So father's father, like father kin, father's kin.
Or just father son, like his full brother.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because there's all those other compounds like uncle and nephew and stuff like that.
I think it's emphasizing the horror of this. Like they're not even half brothers, right? They're full brothers.
Yeah, okay. Like kin by their father. He then departed stained, marked with or marked by murder. Marked mordre. Hate doing a trill and then a trill again.
Mordre.
So you can do it. You can do it. That sounds like a person who does that natively.
I don't know about
But
that.
you have, I suppose, you have Icelandic to.
And Spanish. I mean,
Oh,
but
okay.
but I'm probably over obsessed with my trilling because I wind up doing it in Norwegian and Swedish and sounding, as Ron Vipe once said, slightly childish when I do that. So,
Oh, really? I suppose they usually do the uvula thing.
well, in parts of Norway, like southern and western Norway, yeah, but it's not that strong trill mostly. Um, but it's just kind of like, your mind has its tracks for native and foreign language, and it's like that's my foreign R.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it probably is
Uh,
as well.
by the way, while we're paused, Gavin asked about the strange compounds that resemble Old Norse being a hint to the dating. I don't think so. I think it was probably a common part of that Germanic stock of poetic language, but you just see it more in Old Norse, probably just because of the nature of the stories that are preserved. Beowulf sort of stands alone, being heroic poetry, and well, with a few other things in Old English.
Yeah, that's a good point. If we had more, if we had whatever if if there are sort of cognate stories to the Old Norse ones preserved, maybe they would use that construction more.
Seo Edda, yeah,
Say yeah,
those.
interesting. Oh, that would be so good.
I know. Well, it'll never happen. Although I'm pretty sure there are obsessive people who have
Like
less or more completely done it. Yeah.
yeah. So marked with murder, to flee human enjoyment, inhabited the wilderness. This West End word is often used of like the desert, I think, in the Bible and things like that, but presumably it's more like not a desert in this case. Then many fated ghosts, like fated spirits, Yelshafgasta, awoke, of which Grendel was one, Wastara Grendel Sun, a hateful sword villain who found at Helrot a watching man, Wachendne, where waiting for battle. There, the monster became seizing with him, like became gripping with him, like wowed at grabe him.
Although I think we also have to allow the Oglaka could mean Beowulf here because that has been used of him
Oh
vis-a-vis
yeah.
Grendel, the enemy. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
but I mean, they both.
I think I've got lazy and just translated it as monster every time because it's used of Grendel a few times. But yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's a negative word, but it's used of Beowulf as perceived negatively by Grendel.
Yeah,
like it's like enemy, right?
which is an interesting like perspective shift, actually, isn't it?
And I think Beowulf is kind of notable for doing that perspective shift sometimes, right? I mean, you do get some sense of what Grendel wants and feels, even if it's sort of, super villainy, mustache twirlingly, like, oh, I hate hearing joy. I mean, it's still like there's still a sense of his internal motivation.
Yeah, that's true. Like it describes his sort of pain and that how unpleasant this sound is to him, and the fact that it's like a really unpleasant feeling.
Yeah.
So there, the monster became like fighting with him, or the enemy became fighting with Grendel. Maybe maybe that does make more sense. Whether like maybe like nevertheless rather than whether.
Probably, yeah.
Like even so, he remembered great strength, the gem's strong gift that God gave to him, and he relied on the honor of the Arnwald on the sole ruler. His comfort and help, so God's comfort and help. And by this he it's like, see, like by this he overcame the fiend, the enemy, cast down the hell spirit.
I wonder if it's cast him to hell, cast a spirit to hell.
Oh yeah, because yeah, that could be dated. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, that's dated, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I think it could actually be a compound. Like you could take it as well, like you did, like the hell spirit, which is kind of fun. I'm just throwing out an alternative thought.
I think that makes sense as well, because you could imagine it being worded that way to fit the alliteration.
Yeah, and with Hnag,
Either, yeah. Well, it's so rare that I see like the HN sequence at the start of an Old English word. I can like Nutu, like nut had the HN sequence, and there's probably loads of words, and I'm noticing it now because it's hard to pronounce, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's like I feel like it's voiceless. It's like the nut equivalent of what you do with W, like the what at this in WH words, like what.
You know,
No.
the other day I realized that I do that voiceless W in compounds that start with voice W following something voiceless, and I can't remember what the example was, but it was weird because I caught myself doing it. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know I did that. It was like
Oh, that's interesting.
I think maybe what it was wastewater.
Oh, so you go like wastewater.
Yeah,
That's
wastewater. Like I realized that I was actually devoicing that W.
That's very
weirdly.
interesting.
Gavin says say werewolf. Werewolf. I mean that's not
Werewolf.
Yeah, but the R is voiced.
Yeah,
But yeah, like wastewater. Like I realized that I was doing like I think I'm devoicing it there. Anyway, random thought. There's not many languages that have that devoiced in. I mean, modern Icelandic actually has expanded it so that old KN is now HN and
okay.
modern Icelandic. So like ni, Old Norse kne, modern Icelandic yeah.
That's really interesting because doesn't Icelandic, like obviously, I'm probably misremembering, but doesn't it like have fortition of qua? Like, isn't it like qua, like in what?
Yeah, yeah. In most speakers, there are Eastern Icelandic speakers, mostly very old people now, who do still say like hvítur.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And in poetic reading, that's often done deliberately by people who don't normally do it, just to keep that alliteration in older poems where the H is alliterating with another H. So people are still aware of the hua, but yeah, the normal pronunciation for most speakers is kva. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So when you pronounce like Edda, like 12th century kind of Old Norse, do you tend to you hua, don't you?
Yeah, I say hua.
Yeah.
Although I lean toward making the W/V more of an approximate hua.
Right. Okay.
Hua. But I mean, in practice, like yeah, probably my typical reading is just hua, like my normal hua. And Morgan asked about the voices R. Yeah, Icelandic has voices R, L, and N.
Yeah.
Pla, nah.
Yeah. Old English as well.
Yeah, ring. Yeah.
So by this he overcame the enemy, either cast down the hell spirit or cast the spirit down to hell. Then he departed, poor, bereft of joy. So this is Grendel again. Switching subjects a fair bit here. To see his death place. mankind's enemy. And his mother then, Jut, Yvre and Goldmord, still greedy and gloomy-minded, wanted to go, or intended to go maybe, Ygarnwald it, a sorrowful journey to avenge her son's death. She came then to Helrot, where Ringdanes slept throughout the hall. And then there soon became, this was one thing I didn't like, Edward Earlum, like return to earls, which I think some people interpret as like revenge, like a response to the earls for what they did earlier, kind of thing. Like the
Or a change.
Maybe, yeah,
because Huir Huirvan, you know, change, vanish. I think like if we read it as like then because they've been so happy.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is. Something to do with the change, like a change of circumstance befalls them.
That makes sense. Okay, so there came a change to the earls. When Grendel's mother passed inside. This is an interesting bit. So I read this from Evneswa Michle. I read it as like the horror was less by a certain amount.
Yeah.
Michle.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It wasn't quite as bad.
Which is such a weird undercutting in the sequel, you know?
It's really strange. It's like it's so,
but I mean it does kind of explain it, but it's funny because, you know, our sequel logic, right? You know, X-Men 2 has to have a bigger enemy than X-Men because we can't, you know, so but the second monster he fights little bit less terrible.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like it's like how there are so many prophecies in Old Norse literature that then like the whole plot is just described. It's like it's something you wouldn't expect from a modern storytelling perspective.
But isn't this bizarre? I mean, like it's just like it just pauses for casual monster sexism.
Yeah, it's like it's literally just. Now, I'm not claiming Grendel's mother was as fearsome as Grendel, of course. It's like why was it necessary to wonder what exactly the motivation for writing was? But yeah, so the horror was less by a certain amount, as is a maid's strength, the war violence of women. This whole bit is a bit of a salad, but I read it as like when a bound sword is on the Heldelbunden, beaten by a hammer, forged by a hammer, a sword stained by sweat, which, as Jackson said, this probably means blood, bore above helm, strong with its edges, although bore above helm sounds like could be a helmet thing rather than a sword thing. Underworld was the bit I had most trouble with, but I had like at present, like at present, cut by armed men. So Sheereth goes all the way back to Beowulf men.
Yeah, Onward being opposite, standing over against, according to.
Oh, okay, that makes
flavor.
I feel like so.
Cut
the opposite by cut by armed men.
I think you've got the pieces all together here. I think probably the only thing I would adjust is lines 1284. So we good a weavis bewapned men. I think bewapned. I think wapned men is dative singular to mon.
Oh,
Because
I
you see that sometimes with these old consonant sims. So like the battle violence of a woman's by that of an armed man, a
Oh.
man of armed age. When and then we've got this whole just flourish about battle, right? I mean, and this just seems like him filling 6 lines or whatever with just conventional battle talk.
yeah,
Um,
does seem
Anyway.
like a lot of battle talk. Yeah, I think actually in my gloss I've written man, but misread because my modern English brain is used to seeing men and reading men.
but doesn't it do that because it's an old consonant sim?
No,
When
I
you
think
sometimes see a dative singular with I mutation. I think
I-
that's right.
I think you're right.
It's-
I think yeah, no, I think you're right. Although I think I only think you're right because that came up when I was sifting through before. I don't think I knew that off the top of my head. But yeah.
You see it more in Old Norse with, I think, with those old consonant sims like fadir. You sometimes see a dative singular feather, which looks like a plural, but and it later gets reanalyzed, but so they replace it with folder. But you do see archaic feather, the I mutation. So that's what I'm taking this as, and it looks like Claver takes it the same way.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, so we're done with our conventional battle talk, and we're back to the actual scene in 1288.
Tharwas on Howler. So then was a hard blade drawn in the hall, sword over seats. Many seed rund money. I'm not sure if rund is the plural, but clearly that means like many many shields.
Yeah, because there's so often you get this mini thing.
Oh yeah,
right.
like many a broad shield. Lifted strongly in hands, or of hand. Yeah, lifted strongly in hands. Helm nejemunde. Helm not paid attention to. Disregarded maybe. Armor cedar like wide. When the monster saw him.
Or when one sees the monster, like they're so shocked they don't think to put on their helmet and armor.
Oh yeah,
Oh, when the monster on him.
because hine.
Yeah, so I see. The
So
monster.
maybe like, but still with the same like, maybe because the monster has seen them, they're being like hasty with the armor and stuff. Herwasonovste, she was in haste. Walder Ulthanon wanted out of there to protect her life. Failed at Belgun. When she was found, when she was discovered. Quickly, she had strongly gripped one noble, Arne Adelinga. Then she went to the fen. So she's been this kind of caught, and then she's just grabbed someone and run out to the fen.
Yeah, like she was planning to just kill a bunch of them before they woke up, but like they woke up, so she's just gonna grab one and go, I guess.
He, presumably the noble, was to Hrothgar the most loved hero in like the company, like the band. a powerful shield fighter between the seas. I was going to say beseas tween.
Yeah.
Sam Twellman.
What strikes me as a very Danish perspective on one's location, right? Because in Denmark, you're always between two seas somewhere. But I guess it could also be a sort of mythical way of looking at it, like between the outer ocean and the inner ocean. So it's kind of like all of Midgard. I don't know. But it's a fun expression.
Yeah, powerful shield fighter. I think I used that before actually. Who she took on rest, took from rest, even. A prosperous man. Beowulf was not there. That's Beowulf's dad. But was in another, like in another house or something.
Yeah, or like he was otherwise
like elsewhere. I took your Tilford as like your Tilford, like which had been decided earlier, kind of thing.
Yeah, like he's sleeping somewhere special now. I mean, this is just one more thing where Hrothgar's going overboard. He's probably giving him, the best guest room or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like it was planned that he'd be somewhere else, kind of thing, maybe. Although I think your Telford has a few possible interpretations.
I'm seeing a point or a sign in the glossary in Kleber. So another one was appointed earlier to him.
Yeah, okay. After the treasure giving to the Great Geek. So you've been sent to maybe sleep somewhere else after the whole treasure giving. Found while on Helrote, a scream became on Helrot. She took maybe from under the blood or from under the gore, she took a known hand, like a well-known hand or a particular hand. This form is cognate with Latin palm, like palma, which I didn't know until recently.
This has got to be Grendel's arm, right?
Yeah, that's why I assume like Grendel's arm from earlier.
It's a funny. I mean, isn't that like a weird, I don't know, emotion to put yourself in? Like, oh, here's my son's arm. I better grab it. I don't know.
Maybe it's just like I don't want them to have part of him kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's interesting that is remembered, right? I think if I were writing the story, I wouldn't necessarily have thought to have her grab his arm.
Yeah.
But it's a fun little touch,
Yeah, it's like a little. I wonder if that behavior is supposed to be a kind of weird monster behavior, or if it's like if it was the instinct of somebody alive back then, if that would be a natural kind of thing to do. Because I feel like that's not too far away from something I might like. I wouldn't go in and grab someone's arm, but like I'd take, if their necklace had come off or something, I might go and get the necklace back, kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, I guess I have to wonder if my mom would grab my bloody arm if she was,
that's true. True.
Raiding this hall full of guys who had fought against me. I mean, it's I don't know. Anyway, I just think I think it's interesting that the poet takes the time to think of this.
Yeah, that's true. So sorrow was Yenewod renewed. Became in dwellings. So like the sorrow of the men maybe was kind of restored by the fact that now there's this monster come back. not was that change good, that they on both halves had to pay for with friends' lives. So yeah.
Yeah. I think
Then
not a good exchange.
not that was not that was there's this line from this comedy that my friend showed me once, which was like, we contacted NASA for a quote, and they said, this is the one thing we didn't want to happen. I'm like, where am I? So then was the wise king Har Hilderinch, grey battle man, again Arnhar, on savage spirit, when he knew or became aware of the elder thane, the dearest unliving. So like when he the elder thane, unliving, the dearest, dead knew. Like when he knew him dead. So quickly Beowulf was fetched to the dwelling, the victorious man. Clearly not victorious enough.
Not this time.
Not this time. Together, early in the day, our day, like at dawn maybe, a particular earl, Sum Eorla, a noble soldier, went Elde, himself with companions, where the wise one awaited, whether for him whether for him all powerful ever might want to carry out improvement after the woe.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, okay. So ever might want to carry out improvement after the woe story. Went then over the floor, the war-worthy man. The war-worthy man went then over the floor with his group of companions. Hallwood dinned, so like the wood of the hall was loud, like kind of with a din. That he, the wise one, the wise king, humbled with words, Lord of Ingwins. There's another random ethnonym.
The friends of Ing, the friends of Roer. I mean, it's probably just, you know, Danes.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Asked if to him were this night's or night suitable after invitation, like
yeah, after the like emergency greeting, right? Like, because
yeah,
so if he's been sleeping somewhere else, the some man has got to be Beowulf, right? He's
yeah,
been sleeping somewhere else. Someone has come and said, "Hey, you got to come to Herod."
yeah,
And Beowulf doesn't know or is playing coy about, for some reason, Grendel's mom.
yeah. Yeah, invitation is probably not the best translation of nailed leather, actually. Like necessary, necessary greeting.
Or I often take my base reading of the cognate Nether in Old Norse is basically emergency,
Right.
right? Yeah, emergency message, emergency greeting.
Emergency message. Asked if this night was suitable to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next time we start with Hrothgar's reply, which is pretty much like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Suitable. Get tasted.
What have they called the next chapter?
Oh
no! Oh no!
Sorrow Hera at Asher's death. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.